Good day, everyone. This is Carmina Reyes. I'm here to introduce risk appetite. Risk appetite refers to the amount and type of risk an organization is willing to accept in achieving its strategic objectives. It recognizes that risk taking is necessary for value creation. It is distinct from risk capacity, which represents the organization's financial ability to absorb losses. Aligning risk appetite with risk capacity ensures sustainable and responsible decision making. In summary, a clearly defined risk appetite guides strategic decisions by balancing risk and opportunity. That's all. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jasmine Joyce Trulomblon, and I will be discussing why appetite does not work effectively in practice. Although it is widely used in risk management frameworks, many firms struggle to apply it properly and meaningfully. One major problem is that there is no standard format for risk appetite statements. Companies are expected to define it, but there is no clear guideline on how to do so. Even the definition provided by COSO in 2004 and 2017 is vague. Because of this lack of clarity, different firms interpret risk appetite differently, leading to inconsistent applications across organizations. In practice, defining risk appetite is often difficult and time-consuming. Instead of helping decision-making, it can become bureaucratic and policy-heavy. Another issue is that it may disconnect risk from opportunity. Firms might focus too much on controlling risk and forget to consider their potential gains. For example, some firms set a rule that at least 25% of their budget must be spent on innovation. However, there is no proof that this percentage actually maximizes value. It may simply be an arbitrary number. Because of this, rigid rules like this can block better strategic decisions that could create more value. A deeper criticism is that firms are not persons, so they should not have personal risk preferences. Directors have a duty to maximize long-term shareholder value, and their decisions should not reflect their personal attitudes towards risk, but should instead focus on what creates the most value for the company. Another issue is stakeholder confusion. Different stakeholders, such as employees, creditors, and shareholders, have different risk preferences. Because of this, defining one single overall risk appetite can create confusion rather than clarity. The solution is to focus on long-term value creation. Risk management should use cost-benefit analysis. Managers should act as risk-neutral decision-makers, meaning they reduce risk only if doing so increases expected value. Risk should not be reduced just to maximize volatility. In conclusion, risk appetite fails because it is vague, arbitrary, and disconnected from value creation. A value-based and cost-benefit approach is more effective in managing risk and achieving long-term success.
Good day everyone, my name is Gisharin Rubio. Today I will be discussing the Chapter 8 Risk Appetite How to Make Progress. To make real progress in managing risk, organizations must focus on understanding two key things: the cost of risk and the cost of risk mitigation. Instead of using vague terms like risk appetite, firms should quantify these costs clearly. When risks are measured in financial terms, managers can make smarter, data driven decisions. This approach allows companies to compare potential losses with the cost of reducing those risks, leading to more strategic and effective risk management. Absolute risk appetite. Absolute risk appetite refers to strict, clearly defined limits on risk exposure. These are hard limits that organizations do not want to exceed. This approach is common in specialized areas like trading desk. It is also relevant for institutions such as pension funds and life insurance companies, where the primary goal is preserving value and meeting future obligations. Because these organizations must ensure they can pay future claims. They generally have a near zero appetite for risk. However, absolute limits can be difficult for companies focused on maximizing value, since strict limits may prevent them from pursuing profitable opportunities. Relative risk appetite. In value maximizing firms, risk appetite is relative, not absolute. This means companies are willing to accept some downside risk if the potential upside is strong enough. Risk decisions depend on balancing risk and return. For example, Netflix invested heavily in producing its own content. This required large expenditures with uncertain results, but the potential upside was massive growth and competitive advantage. Managers carefully monitor financial ratios and liquidity to manage risk. This shows how firms accept calculated risk when the expected return justifies it. Figure 8.1 illustrates how a firm's risk appetite changes depending on its objective. If the focus is on protecting current value, the company tends to have lower risk tolerance and stricter controls. On the other hand, if the goal is growth and value maximization, the firm is more willing to take calculated risk. This demonstrates that risk appetite is not fixed. It depends on strategy and potential returns. Ultimately, making progress means balancing protection and growth while aligning risk decision with long-term value creation.
Hello everyone, my name is Enilyn Salmorin and I'm going to discuss risk capacity. For definition, risk capacity refers to the ability of a firm to take on risk based on its financial strength and available resources. It depends on the company's access to capital, cash flow stability, and overall financial position. In simple terms, it answers the question, how much risk can the company afford to take without facing financial distress? Risk capacity focuses on the firm's financial ability to absorb potential losses. Risk capacity versus risk appetite. Risk capacity and risk appetite are related but different concepts. Risk appetite is the willingness of a company to take risks in order to achieve its goals. It reflects management's attitude toward risk. On the other hand, risk capacity is the actual financial ability of the company to support those risks. If a company takes risks beyond its capacity, it can become financially unstable or reckless. However, if it takes too little risk despite having high capacity, it may miss valuable growth opportunities. The purpose of risk capacity is to serve as a financial buffer for the firm. It helps absorb potential losses that may arise from business risk. Risk capacity allows the company to handle cash flow shortfalls and continue operating even during difficult financial periods. It ensures that the daily operations are not disrupted. Overall, it supports the firm's long-term strategy by providing stability and financial resilience. Risk capacity and economic capital. Risk capacity is closely related to the economic capital, but they focus on different aspects. Economic capital focuses on solvency. It measures how much a capital firm needs to protect itself from insolvency and major losses. On the other hand, risk capacity focuses more on liquidity. It ensures that the company has enough financial strength to meet its cash flow commitments, such as debt payments and operating expenses. In simple terms, economic capital protects the firm from failure, while risk capacity ensures the firm can continue operating smoothly. Cash commitments refers to the financial obligations that a company must pay regularly. These include interest payments, debt installments, operating expenses, and capital expenditures. Risk capacity ensures that the firm has enough liquidity to meet these obligations on time. If a company cannot meet its cash commitments, it may face financial distress. Therefore, managing cash commitments is an important part of maintaining strong risk capacity. Cash flow shortfall. A cash flow shortfall occurs when a company cash inflows are less than its cash commitments. When this happens, the company may struggle to pay its obligations. However, the shortfall can be covered through existing cash reserves, borrowing capacity, insurance payouts, or derivative gains. Understanding cash flow shortfalls helps the firm assess whether its risk capacity is strong enough to handle unexpected financial pressures. Limitations: Risk capacity is not unlimited. It is constrained by the company's financial obligations and available resources. These limitations include interest payments, debt repayments, operating expenses, and capital investments requirements. The more financial commitments a company has, the lower its available risk capacity. Therefore, a firm must carefully assess its financial limits before taking on additional risk. For importance, risk capacity is important because it helps reduce the likelihood of financial distress. It ensures that the company can continue operating during difficult periods and prevents underinvestment caused by fear of losses. A strong risk capacity supports long-term growth and strategic decision-making. In general, the greater the firm's risk capacity, the lower the probability of failure.
Hi everyone, my name is Nivea and I'm here to discuss the way forward. So, as previously discussed, risk appetite is often referred as vague, which I think is not very helpful in decision making, especially in an organization that have goals and objectives, since it can be poorly communicated. And if it's poorly communicated, we all know that it can result in misunderstanding, or worse, can cause bigger or higher risk. Risk appetite is also known to have static approach, which is a very traditional approach, and to be honest, it is not suitable in unpredictable market that we have right now. So, the way forward is to switch from static to dynamic approach. So, we can use approaches like pro and contra, which means for and against, or pros and cons. And using this, we can identify the trade-offs of our choices by analyzing and evaluating its pros and cons, which can result in effective decision making. Using this kind of approach as well is highly recommended since it provides holistic view considering the qualitative and quantitative factors. Power 2009 also suggested the relevance of risk appetizing since organization is not just composed of an individual. It is composed of a lot of stakeholders and decision level. So it's not recommended to have fixed singular risk appetite. So Power suggested to have continuous discussion and process of evaluating decision to have a comprehensive understanding of risk and opportunities. By doing this, we can maximize the organization's value.
Hello everyone, I'm Rachel Lan Santos, and the last topic for the chapter Risk Appetite is quantitative example of risk capacity. To better understand the connection of risk capacity and risk retention, we need to review a situation in which we can identify a risk. When a business identifies a risk, they need to reduce it first. Even after mitigation, which refers to actions of companies to reduce the impact of potential threats, some risk still remains. This remaining risk can be retained by the business or refer as risk retention or decide to transfer it to another party or called as risk transfer. And whether the company can afford to retain this risk depends on its risk capacity. To analyze the consequences of risk retention, we need to introduce cash commitments. Cash commitments refers to the obligations an organization has to pay out in cash in the future. Here's an illustration. Example A, first scenario, company with strong risk capacity. Firm ABC earns $100 million. They have interest of $10 million, an investment of $40 million. Therefore, their total commitments is $50 million, while they have a $20 million cash on hand. Even in the worst case scenario and firm ABC's performance drops to $75 million, they can still cover the $50 million commitments and still has extra $25 million to its cash balance. This configuration means that the firm is well capitalized, manageable, and can afford to retain the risk. While on example B, the second scenario, company with weak risk capacity. They have also a total of $10 million in interest, but they have investment of $19 million. Their total commitments is $100 million, while their cash on hand is only $10 million. In worst case performance of $75 million, there will be a $25 million shortage, and they only have $10 million cash on hand. They need to cut the investment by at least $15 million. In this situation, the firm cannot keep the risk. But there is one way the firm can attempt to increase its capacity, and that is through risk transfer, a technique in which risk transferred to a third party. Some common examples of this includes insurance policies, contracts and agreements, and indemnification clauses. The contract could be designed to yield a cash flow that compensates the firm for any cash flow shortfall, but zero in all scenarios. This risk transfer boosts the available cash, precisely a situation in which the firm has a need for it. An example of risk transfer scenario is if the firm buys $5 billion insurance, it yields payoff only if performance falls below the critical threshold of $1 million, like what happened with the second scenario of firm ABC, when the total of all cash commitments reached $100 million. This helps the firm to increase the risk capacity. In conclusion, risk capacity determines whether a company can survive bad outcomes without disrupting its strategy. However, maintaining high risk capacity often reduces profitability, so companies must balance risk and return. Key takeaways are cash commitments are critical thresholds to companies' ability to meet required payments. Risk capacity is what determines a firm's ability to meet its cash commitments across a range of scenarios. Lastly, risk transfer, in principle, a potentially more proficient way of financing risk than keeping cash buffers. And this concludes our report. Thank you.